This is it. We are starting episode number 551. Yes, of No Laugh Track Podcast here in Minneapolis, Minnesota. My name's Justin Severson. Get to host this each and every week. So last week, I had that certain excitement of having a guest for the first time. This week is a little different. It's an old friend who I haven't seen in almost 5 years.
5 years.
Tom Rhodes is here, and
yes.
I haven't seen you in almost 5 years.
Hey, Justin, how are you, handsome?
Welcome back, sir.
And I've already done the podcast, 3 or 4 times?
Oh, at least, yeah.
What's left?
Oh, like I told you, I got leftovers from Beth Stelling last week. We're going to discuss all the stuff we're going to talk about with her. So the last time we talked, it was November of 2019, Tom.
Wow. The world was had so much potential back then.
I mean, what we didn't know at the time, right?
Wow. 4 months before everything locked down.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah. Where back in 2020, how much did that shut you down?
Completely. Living in California, they were strictly shut down. And I didn't work for a year and 3 months.
Longest ever break, I'm sure.
At one part, I was glad to have time off, and I realized how great it is to sleep in my own bed instead of traveling all the time. But I felt like I lost my identity.
Yeah.
My whole social world. All of my best friends are comedians, people who work in the business. And I didn't realize how much my total identity is wrapped up into stand-up comedy and being a comedian. So
traveling to Minneapolis once every year, every other year.
Yeah, and wow, it's so nice to be back here. Epictetus said that if you really want to enjoy something, deprive yourself of something you love, so that when you finally have it, then the enjoyment will be more. So like Minneapolis in the summer is just exquisite, and the air feels like velvet on your skin. And
you were bouncing on the stage last night.
I mean, I was so happy. And then
literally you were bouncing on the stage.
And stand-up comedy is my life. This is one of the greatest comedy rooms ever on the planet Earth in the history of stand-up comedy. And I've been playing here for 30 years, and just this stage feels electric on your feet, and it was the room was packed.
Yeah,
and
it was fun.
The MC didn't show up, so I was told I could do as much time as I wanted, and it was just great to not think about any kind of closing structure, and just keep going with all the ideas that were coming to my head.
It was Wednesdays are often kind of loosey-goosey, and you're getting back in the swing of things, but even more so because of that certain situation last night where there was one less person on the bill. It was great. And then, of course, the feature, who ended up being the host and feature, Steve Gillespie.
Hilarious.
Who is headlined here. He headlines across the country. So great, really, really great show.
I'd never seen him before.
Oh.
Absolutely wonderful man and brilliant comedian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do some hallucinogens with him. He'd love to.
Oh, hey, that could be a source of material.
If he may have some on him. I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'm not sure. Let's see. So, like I said, it's been a long time. There's something that you're mentioning on stage that I want to just dive into right away, and that is that you attended Burning Man.
Yes. Wow. Yeah.
Was it last year you went?
Last year for the big disaster that happened, and the rain and the flood and panic.
First time you had ever gone?
First time I'd ever gone.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I know
And I think that will be the last.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I enjoyed it, but the regular conditions are brutal. It's in the desert. It's 105 degrees. And, my least favorite way to go to the bathroom is in a porta potty. And
Same.
When they had the big storm and the shutdown, there was they couldn't, change them out or whatever they do to make them not foul. And it was cool. The just getting through the daytime and the heat. And
Did you go by yourself?
Well, okay. So here's the thing.
You were wandering the desert and just stumbled in?
No, I had shows in Montana. And so this was going to be my big summer trip. My very old and great friend, Rich Hall, who's lived in London for years, but many years ago, he bought a house in Livingston, Montana.
Okay.
So Rich had set up some shows, some cool outdoor amphitheater shows for us. And so I'm really into vintage clothing and thrift stores. And I took my time. I went to Monument Valley, and then I took my time going through Colorado and Wyoming on my way up to, stopped in Denver, did some shows at the Comedy Works. But I was looking for vintage Western wear.
Okay.
So I bought like some great Wrangler jackets from the 1970s with these big wide collars. This beautiful cowboy hat that I got in Wyoming.
I think I saw some pictures of that.
And
I could not pull that off. Only certain people can pull that off.
So I was in Montana doing these shows. Oh, and then also I saw this country singer that I love, Charlie Crockett, in Aspen 2 nights. And then went up, Wyoming and, buying vintage Western wear. And then I did the shows in Montana. And a friend of mine had an extra ticket to Burning Man. And he contacted me and asked me if I wanted to go. And so it was on my way back. I had the time off. And I lived in San Francisco in the 90s when it was first starting, Burning Man. And and back then when it was like young and underground and cool, I never had any desire to go.
Interesting.
Same reason I've never watched Breaking Bad. Drugs in the desert's just not my thing. So, but what I wanted to the setup is, I only had cowboy clothes when I went to Burning Man. So I looked like the sheriff of Burning Man. So I got a cowboy hat on. I'm wearing all this like cowboys. I look like a dude who wandered in from Wyoming, really concealing that Florida identity.
Yeah,
but
hey, I want to ask you right now. An extra ticket that's like a $2,000 extra ticket, right? Aren't these really expensive?
I got it for face value. It was $600.
Okay.
And I read that some people spend on average $6,000 to $8,000.
Okay.
For Burning Man, for costumes and everything.
Okay.
This friend of mine had a shift pod, which is like a step up from a tent. So he had 2 of those, and and I buying supplies. I did it for less than $1,000.
Okay.
I mean, I think I spent probably $900 total.
Okay.
On my Burning Man experience. So at night it's wonderful with the art cars and the stars in the desert and seeing the moon rise above the mountain. It's really just powerfully beautiful. The natural surroundings, and then all these like art cars driving around and light installations and things like that. I was near really cool people. I enjoyed it. But one thing I didn't talk about on the show last night when I mentioned it, and this is all before the storm happened. There were these topless Canadian girls across the road from me, and they were really cute, and I was complaining to them how I missed taking a shower, and I'm a really hygienic person.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, there's this place. And so we ride our bikes to this tent, and there was no walls, and there's about 100 naked people all standing there. And there was signs that said, no photos, no cameras. And, these girls were only wearing shorts, and they took off their bottoms and put it on their bike. And so I take off my clothes and put it on the bike. And I enjoy being naked, but I don't like being naked around strangers, and especially like 100 people. But
yeah.
Here's these really hot, naked Canadian girls, and I got out of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
And so I'm standing there, and so they explain the rules to you that you wash other people first, and then they wash you. And there's no touching of genitals or buttholes, and if you get a boner, you're asked to leave.
What? What? No.
No, the last part was a joke. But you can't. I added the boner part. So
there'd be such a steady stream. That place would be empty. It'd be nothing but women. Come on.
So like the square plastic busboy tubs you see in restaurants.
Of course, yeah.
So there was 4 of them. And, so you wash, there's 4 people around each tub. And you get in the first one and you raise your arms like this. And people spray you with the water mister. And then you get in the second one, and then the people squeegee it off your body. There's no soap. It's just a water. But it's so hot. You're like, oh, my God, it's a relief.
Sure.
But I think it was one of the most beautiful gifts that I ever gave to humanity and that humanity ever gave to me. Because there was something really powerful about touching an older man's body, touching an older woman's body, touching a black woman's body.
Yeah.
Touching an Indian man's body. And then there was this redheaded Australian woman. She had like the whitest skin with freckles all over. And she had the cutest little orange bush. And honestly, there was a couple big hairy fucking guys I didn't touch. You're on your own, pal. It was really beautiful. So at the end of my shows now, I'm setting up 4 plastic busboy tubs, and I tell everyone to leave their clothes at their chairs, and then we're gonna wash each other on the way out of the club.
You'll leave with a story and a clean body.
Yeah. So I think that was the most powerful experience.
I would bet.
Of the thing.
Wow.
But and you saw the necklaces.
Yes.
I showed them on stage last night. There's no money exchanged. People give gifts, and there's all these other wilderness Canadians. This guy gave me a necklace that's a bison tooth. A grizzly claw, and then another necklace that was a bison tooth, and then it turned out a big fan of mine worked at this dance club, and he gave me this necklace. It looked like a dog tag, military dog tag, but it actually was the VIP pass to dance on the upper levels with the beautiful people. So I was.
Have you been flashing that other places since to see if it works?
No. But it's
VIP. It's all access. All access.
I like telling the story, on stage.
And then by the time it was over, you basically had to escape.
Well, I tell you, the storm hit, and then this place is known for communal love and sharing and stuff, and there was panic, and it was the rich people that panicked. All these people were trying to leave, and then there's no cell phone service, but once the storm hit and the mud locked down, then all of a sudden we magically have something, and then there was a BBC photo of like 200 vehicles stuck, because you're like 8 miles from the main road. Chris Rock walked out of there in the mud.
Oh, that's right.
8 miles to this tiny little country road, and he hitchhiked because he had a gig in Washington, D.C.
Oh, my God.
And that's just extraordinary what he did, because, that mud was satanic.
Yeah.
You walked in it, and it was, just 40 pounds on each foot, like that kind of World War I trenches mud.
My goodness.
And then even big pickup trucks with the big fat tires, their wheels would cake with mud, and it would get in the wheel hubs, and they're fishtailing. And so there was this big pickup truck pulling a long flatbed full of items, and he pulls up right by my thing, and I showed my phone. And I go, hey man, because I was on the outer road towards the exit. And I showed the guy the photo. I go, hey, man, I don't know if you saw this photo, but, even if you get past all this mud, you're not getting past the gate. Because, look, it's a log jam. And they said if you get stuck, there's no emergency vehicles that will come get you. You'll have to stay there. And I showed the guy the photo, and he just goes, I'm going to go for it. And he went. And, there's proof. And the guy still...
Nothing you would have said would have stopped him. Nothing.
So, that was quite the experience, and I was one of the first people to arrive. My friend and I, the gates open at midnight. We were there in line at 11. There was already a bunch of vehicles there, so we crossed through at 12:30 a.m. And then after the storm and everything. I love my car, and I drove, and I saw what it was doing to. So I wasn't going to leave until everything was, and another thing is I'm a reader, and I had a bunch of books, so all these people were panicking, and I stayed in my little tent and read. I was totally cool, and then these wonderful people from Boulder, Colorado, they had a big RV thing on the night of the storm when everything was like total chaos and panic. They pull out these big, they made like steamed crab.
What?
Yeah.
My
So like the news is showing people cholera and panic and all this shit. And
Not everyone, clearly.
No. And
wow.
these people next to the topless Canadians from Colorado had a full. And I love crab. I'm eating like buttered crab. It was really nice.
Amazing.
So then they burn the man. A lot of people, once they opened the gates, left before they burned the man. And then the last thing is they burned the temple. So I think it's the Saturday they did the man, and then the Sunday the temple. But they didn't. I don't think they burned the man until the Tuesday, and then the temple until the Wednesday. And I left after the next day. So I was one of the first people to arrive and one of the last people to leave.
Wow.
And so once they burned the man, then a ton of other people left. So there wasn't that many people. And so I look at it like Woodstock. Jimi Hendrix closed Woodstock. But there was a big storm and mud, and all these people left. So there was like, I don't know, 100,000, 200,000 people at Woodstock. But when Jimi Hendrix went on, there was only like 8,000 people left. That's how I looked at that temple burn. Like, I'm staying for Hendrix's set,
Love
And
that.
I was one of the last people to live. And the ground was hard, and there was no mud. And my lovely little Toyota is still intact.
Congrats.
Yeah.
You saved it.
Thanks.
Hey, I want to, we have to talk about, I remember you used to do those knowledge nugget videos where you would stand or sit in front of your large collection of books.
Yeah.
And I've heard you on your podcast, probably here as well, talk about, how many thousands of books you have. You're still collecting, I'm sure.
I can't stop buying books. Yeah.
Have you done the switch to ebooks?
No, never.
Never.
Never. No, there's something satisfying about, turning the pages.
Yep.
And then also when you turn that last page and you close the book. But also when I was in school, like elementary school and junior high school, I'm sure it was the same for you, that if you marked in your books, you were fined. And then if you screwed the book up, you had to pay for a whole new textbook.
Yeah, you're buying it.
So I always thought when I'm older and I can buy my own books, I'm going to,
Right all over them?
No, but I always read my books with a highlighter.
Oh.
You can pull any book I've read off of my shelf and open it up, and you read the highlights, and it's a quick refresher of what I can pull any book off and just read through the highlights, and then I got the book back in my mind.
Very cool.
So I always highlight my books, and ebooks just I don't want anything with batteries. I like the ancient paper.
Sure.
And I still use I have a proper notebook I write my jokes in also.
You do?
Yeah. I'll do notes on the phone, but I don't write with the computer.
You seem like someone who who is not addicted to his phone, like a lot of people are.
Well, I
oh, maybe, yeah?
I think especially during the pandemic,
okay.
and in recent years, I try not to be.
Mm-hmm.
I try to be present,
I'm someone who has a collection of books. I have all these great intentions of reading them. Instead, oftentimes they just sit there unread. But if it's on my phone, not books necessarily, but articles and just like short things, like I'm reading constantly.
Yeah.
I wish I could do put this down more and pick up the
I'm
book
also
more.
reading constantly.
Yeah.
And on the phone. I mean, BBC, The Guardian, NPR, with the LA Library. I've got the Libby app.
Same.
You can read, magazines on there, which is great.
Yeah.
So no, I'm reading a lot on the phone.
Okay.
But like as far as books go, and e-readers and that kind of stuff, no. But yeah, I read a lot on the phone.
You're still doing your podcast, I know.
Yeah.
Tom Rhodes Smart Camp. So how are you? Tell people how you're kind of doing it these days. It's like you're concentrating. Since we're talking about books, you do concentrate on books in some episodes.
I talk about books, books I read. I think the last one, I've been reading this book, The Body Keeps the Score, lately, which is pretty heavy about trauma.
There's a copy sitting on the table at my house.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. You can only read like a couple chapters, and you got to let it soak in. And
This is my wife's words, word for word, pretty much.
really,
last
yeah,
year. Yes.
yeah. It's not like a continuous reader. You're, fatigued from the, you're traumatized by their trauma.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it's interesting that we all carry traumas in our bodies, and we don't realize it.
I'm hearing that book referenced more and more. Boy, holy cow.
Incredible book.
Yeah.
And then I buy books, and then, I had no intention of reading this book. I picked it up, but it was such a beautifully bound book about Joe DiMaggio, and it's called The Hero's Life. And I love baseball, but I always thought Joe DiMaggio was a douche because he wasn't friendly with his teammates, and, I'm a team guy, and I love comedians and all, so it just didn't seem like he seemed like an arrogant douche.
I listened to that episode.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Amazing. The love story he had with Marilyn Monroe is incredible. They were married for less than a year, and they're two of the biggest stars in the world. And then, they broke up, and then, she was so used by so many people, and every cent she had, she put into like dancing lessons, singing lessons, acting lessons. She had an acting coach that she had to have on set that really manipulated. The acting coach was making more money than she was for a lot of her movies and stuff. And Marilyn didn't even own her clothes.
I learned from listening to that Joe DiMaggio once had a wife from Minnesota.
Yes, his first wife. I think her name was Dorothy.
Never knew that.
Yeah.
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 Mm-hmm.
And he spent time here when they first got married. And he wasn't nice to her. And she wanted, he tried to get back together with her, and she shut him out,
It's a real. I highly recommend people listen to these. It's a good way to I learned stuff, and it's it's you.
Yeah,
it's you reading excerpts from the book, and then kind of giving your own opinion on things.
And so Marilyn Monroe, her father, she never knew her father, and her mother was put in an insane asylum when she was young. So it was her biggest fear. So she was used by the Kennedy brothers. They treated her like a sex toy, and so did Frank Sinatra. And she moved to New York, and this psychiatrist betrayed her and said that, because she'd said she had suicidal feelings. So they locked her up. They threw her in the insane asylum, and no one came and got her out. After 3 days, she got one phone call. She called Joe DiMaggio in Florida. He was the next day, and he got her out of there.
Amazing.
And then they were going to remarry. And then she died mysteriously. So I think, he was, a pretty noble guy for saving Marilyn Monroe. So
another episode of your podcast I listened to recently was when you talked about your mom was the guest.
Yeah.
And she's reading an excerpt from a very religious book.
Yeah.
I was reminded. Oh yeah, she's a
my
Jesus
mom,
freak.
all she reads is like religious books.
That's right. I forgot about that.
Well, that's not true, but she's a big reader.
Yeah.
She's where I got my love for books, because when I was a kid, she would take me and my siblings to the library every month, and then whatever you got, what the limit was, like 5 books. And I always thought that was a magical place that you could go there and pick out any 5 books on any topic. We'd go there for for a few hours or whatever, and just to go in this building full of books, and
I'm seeing that with my little one.
I'll get
right
one
now.
on race cars, and I'll get one on comedy, and I'll get one on whatever.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry to cut you off.
No. Yeah, I'm seeing that with my little one right now when I bring her to the public library, and it's really fun. She gets excited to pick him up, bring him home.
Libraries are awesome.
Yeah. She even likes bringing them back because it means getting new ones.
Yeah.
Of course. But anyway, I wanted to say that, so the episode I listened to with your mom as the guest, one of the topics was Aretha Franklin.
Oh, yeah, I read Aretha Franklin's biography.
Who I've never done a deep dive on. I'm familiar with
what
and whatnot. Life. Well, I can tell you, Tom, that I paused your podcast after about 15 minutes and went on like a 45-minute run of listening to Aretha Franklin.
Yeah, and that 1967 album, I Never Loved a Man the Way I Love You, is, I think, one of the greatest albums of all time. And she wasn't being used properly by Columbia Records, and then she went to Atlantic and had the right people, and she wrote those songs, other than Respect.
Short songs. They're only about they're all like 2 to
But
3
so
minutes long.
soulful.
So
Jesus.
good.
Aretha Franklin has been one of the continuous music things in my life.
Yeah, I'm. So I need to go back and listen to some more because every time I catch your
I'm really
podcast,
impressed that
I
you
really
listen to my podcast like that.
Of course. So I found this interview that you did back in 2018, and I've never heard you say these things. I want to read this real quick here. It says this is an interview with somebody in what was it? Shanghai. Looks like.
Well,
You had this interviewer said you had a glorious head of hair in the 1990s. Was it hard to cut it off? And you said, no, I was kind of known as a long-haired guy. It kind of rocketed me to notoriety back then. I had a sitcom, and it was frustrating because all these hair jokes were directed at me.
yeah.
I've never heard you say that before. The reason I grew my hair out was because I loved Native Americans, and Crazy Horse was one of my heroes.
Yeah.
But all these hair jokes were referencing Fabio and Kenny G. So by the time the show finished, I thought I didn't want my identity to be my hair.
Yeah.
Interesting. Where did the Crazy Horse thing come from?
I've always really been into Native Americans. You know, there was a rare white buffalo was just born in Yellowstone National Park.
Okay.
And Native Americans look at that as an omen of something very good or something bad to come.
Oh, boy. They're not narrowing it down to good or bad? I mean, to
Well, I
one
mean,
or the
that's
other?
pretty vague, isn't it?
Yeah.
Native Americans believed that hummingbirds represented overcoming the impossible. So I guess those trips to the library. I mean, I've always thought Native Americans were awesome, and loving the earth and the mythology and all that, and Crazy Horse. Like the Oglaga Sioux. Who was it?
You got too much knowledge in that head, Tom. You can't keep it straight.
Not Standing Bull. Sitting Bull. He was of the Oglaga Sioux, and he got those remaining people up to Canada and survived them after the Battle of Little Bighorn when they were insurgents. The papers called these native people of the land,
Their land?
It's funny, you read the article, it's the same language used in like war reporting now, But Crazy Horse had a dream that he would never be struck by a bullet in battle. He'd never be killed on a battlefield by a bullet. And in the dream, he had a lightning bolt on his forehead and on his cheeks, and his horse also. So when Crazy Horse rode into battle, he would always put a lightning bolt on his horse's cheeks and forehead and on his own. Crazy Horse, he was a badass.
Sounds like it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And there's a great book called Custer and Crazy Horse. And going into the Battle of Little Bighorn, I haven't read that book in years. It's amazing. I can just rattle off this information.
Yes.
They both had been demoted by their armies going into the battle. Custer he was a real douche. He had political aspirations. And thought rules didn't apply to him. He abandoned his troops and took the train back to Michigan to visit his wife. He got in trouble for that and was demoted. Crazy Horse was in love with this woman in his tribe. And then he went away on a hunting party, and some guy said he was sick and stayed behind, and then he married her while he was away.
Hey, wait a minute.
And that was Crazy Horse's love. So he got her and ran off. And then they had to go look for him, and the guy who Crazy Horse grabbed the woman from shot Crazy Horse in the face. There's no photos of Crazy Horse. There's only like a couple of drawings, and in the drawings, he's missing a chunk from his cheek, and that's because this guy shot him right in the face.
And survived?
I guess he wasn't wearing the lightning bolts.
I guess not. Yeah. Yeah, I have to
If I had that dream, I'd wear that lightning bolt every day.
cover my whole face,
Yeah.
and whole body.
Boy, I can go on a side ramble.
It's because you had so much in there. That's why. I have to bring up one of my favorite moments of last night, and that's when. You're known for, as you're doing right now. You have you've traveled everywhere. You have all these knowledge nuggets about places that you've been, and you're going around the audience, and you're doing the, hey, where are you from? And you were hoping to get.
I always ask if there's someone from another country.
You were hoping to get people from another country.
Because I have so many stories and jokes about different countries.
Exactly. And
sometimes it's comedy gold, and other times I'm left with.
Sure, that's okay. Yeah. But one of the people gave you a local answer and said Coon Rapids.
Yeah, that was funny.
And the look on your face.
I said, I thought we had moved past all that. I thought we had changed all those kinds of names.
I thought we changed those names.
That was great. And then I had this, it was something I had heard a year or two ago, and I got to throw it out at that moment, was, I thought we had, like, changed all those kinds of names that were hurtful. You know that Crayola crayons have discontinued some of their colors. Like there was a flesh-colored crayon that they got rid of.
Right.
And there was another crayon called Indian Red.
Oh.
And they got rid of that one also. And I'm glad they did that because racist crayons are why I gave up art. And I've never said that on stage before. That was like a little knowledge nugget I read like a year or two. See, that's why reading is so, fundamental.
Darn right.
You never know when something is going to pop out.
Mm-hmm.
And I had never said that on stage before in my life.
Look
and
at that.
Then, like, Coon Rapids gave me the opportunity.
Hey, who knew? Who knew? This has gone by super fast. Is there things that we should be mentioning?
Yes, we should mention that during the pandemic, I ate so much chocolate and ice cream, like a lot of people, I deserve this. At the beginning of 2022, I was heavier than I've ever been in my life. I've never been over 200 pounds, and I was 210 pounds. So I got obsessed with hot yoga in the last 2 years, and I lost 40 pounds.
Looking great, man.
Since we're on camera.
Woo!
I have stomach muscles.
You do?
Yeah, I've never been a fitness guy, and I wasn't, I haven't been this skinny since I was in my 20s, I think. So I lost 40 pounds.
Well done.
I think now I'm like 175 now, but oh my God, it's incredible. So and that's been really good for mental health and
I'm sure
keeping pounds off, and so yeah, I think that's a big one.
What was the biggest change that got you this? Like, what did you drop? What did you start doing? Just hot yoga?
Hot yoga, and then and then I stopped eating a pint of Haagen-Dazs every night, And I'll still go on chocolate binges.
Okay.
But just more, it'll be every couple weeks instead of every day. And then cutting out the ice cream was a big one. I've never been a soda guy. Since I gave up drinking alcohol 10 years ago, I love sparkling water. That's 0 calories.
Same.
And,
although I still drink, but yeah.
And and then I try and go roller skating at the beach as often as I can.
Yeah, and you said
that's really good therapy. I got these Bose headphones.
And you're talking roller skates, not
roller blades. No.
No.
I did that in the 90s when that was popular. Yeah. No. The roller skates. I think roller boogie is the only thing that's going to save humanity. I think all of us need to get skates and tight orange satin shorts, and we all need to learn to skate backwards and do the it was popular in the 70s, but just picture manifest this with me that people in the Middle East and our own fractured and divided country, that roller boogie is going to bring us all back together.
I can tell you from experience that when you're around somebody that is good at that, especially the guys that maybe they put the lights on there, know what I'm talking about.
I'm building up to that.
Yeah. You cannot see one of those guys and not smile.
Yeah.
It's a fact.
Yeah.
It absolutely is a fact.
It's true. So that's my mission.
All right. Come back in a year and bring your skates.
I will, man. That'd be great. God, those bridges. I always walk down past the mills, and then there's those pedestrian bridges over there. I bet that would be great to skate across over to Dinkytown.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Thank you, Tom. Good to have you back.
Thank you, Justin. So great to be back on the stage and talking to you. And, a big dose of Minnesota nice and Minneapolis audiences is exactly what I needed in my life right now. So I'm very grateful to be here.
That's awesome. Happy to hear. Thank you.
Thank you. Hooray for humanity.